While the Biden administration is focused like a laser on convincing Americans that their country is systemically racist, a new world order is taking shape. Our enemies, and yes, folks, we do have them, contrary to what some Democrats would like you to believe, they're counting on us not having the guts to push back. Joe Biden and most of official Washington, Republicans and Democrats alike, are proving them correct right now. Beijing is developing its own digital currency to compete with the dollar. China has committed $400 billion in oil purchases and other economic assistance to Iran. Russia's military and espionage operations are increasing. China and Russia recently signed a new military cooperative masquerading as a joint space program. A formal collective defense agreement between these countries could not be far behind. These ties that bind these dictatorships are growing, folks, as Joe Biden's weakness advances their shared global narrative of a United States in decline. These new Axis powers are far better positioned to advance their goals of global dominance than their failed 20th century forebears. You know, during the first Cold War, the combined economic power of the Soviet bloc nations was easily dwarfed by that of a surging U.S. economy and that of our allies, harnessing the creative freedom and the innovation and the free markets of the post-war era. For 3 decades, though, we've desperately clung to this foolish belief that with the first Cold War won, China, Russia, and others would cast aside their tyrannical governments and imperial designs. Americans need to accept the reality that decades of appeasement and facilitation have made this bloc of nations powerful and made them inseparable. It's a type of cooperation the Soviets never had. Moscow had to cobble together a bloc of nations, none of which had independent economic or military prowess, and they were plagued by mismanagement, by poverty, and stretched resources. We have a compounded problem now that requires both a domestic and a foreign policy response, neither of which we are presently executing. It is a dangerous paralysis that has set in over time. Biden's Russia sanctions in the face of the SolarWinds attack are a joke, along with his climate-obsessed foreign policy that surely will be ignored by the new Axis powers. The U.S. must lead in weakening these enemies using every tool at our disposal. It means taking concrete steps to finally stop Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline and replace it with U.S. energy supplies and renewable technologies. U.S. states should ban communist Chinese-linked companies from purchasing agricultural and energy lands. They're buying up farms. They're buying up cattle ranches. They're putting up windmills. It's got to stop. The U.S. should ban the use of Chinese materials and technology from critical infrastructure projects. 80% of our active pharmaceutical ingredients are manufactured in foreign countries. No Axis-aligned or authoritarian nation should be among them. The Trump administration's sanctions against Huawei worked in straining the company's core business, but more Chinese technology and telecom companies should be added to our blacklists, rapidly finalizing our trade deals with the United Kingdom, EU, and other free nations to dissuade them from embracing more communist Chinese companies, investments, and products must become an urgent priority. We need to quickly wean ourselves off of Chinese rare earths, lithium, and other raw materials, and finally have an Africa strategy to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is basically just buying up the entire continent. These measures are a start to countering the new Axis powers. Every president's quest to look like Roosevelt or Reagan in recent years has resulted in decades of nonsense photo ops and half measures. Those need to give way to a bold, holistic strategy appropriate to the scale of this threat. And it needs to start happening now. Call your congressmen and call your state legislators, too. Tell them, get with the program.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.